Welcome to Albion Informer, your source of real news in an unreal world.
Keeping you up to date on all the latest news, events, and the great community of Albion Online.
At Albion Informer, we take all the info that is spread across the entirety of the Albion community, be it Twitter, Discord, the official forums, Reddit, or some random dude in game, and we break it all down into a format that you can digest in less than an hour.
Today is June 15th, 2017. The servers just got updated with Hector patch 1 and everybody's enjoying playing around with Hector. This week's episode is sponsored by the guild Sharebears.
Do you like kittens, rainbows, and fun time hugs? Sharebears might be very good guild for you. Our very friendly guild shares everything. Our 100% tax rate and donation system ensures our team is equipped with best equipment always. We even have equipment for you. Now, if you like rainbows, you like kittens, unicorns, and friendly hugs, and are sick and tired of Yellow Zone warriors chasing you around and keeping you away from your marmot skins, Sharebears might be a right guild for you. We can protect you from these things and from yourself. With our friendly services, your silver is not a worry of yours anymore. You just come with us, and we make sure all is good. Join Sharebears.
It's time for the weekly Gold Watch. Average daily gold prices have crashed from 188 silver per gold just before Hector launched last week to an all-time low of 141 silver per gold today. As predicted last week, players returning to Albion last Wednesday from the Hector patch caused a slight uptick in silver per gold, but prices crashed swiftly during this week. We expect a further decline in silver per gold prices since we are about to hit the 1 month left to release timeframe this week. Shozen, are you buying or selling this week?
I don't have any more gold left to sell. Guys, if you need premium, get the premium. If not, GTFO while you still can. Get out of the gold market. It's going to drop. However, pro tip, guys, if you have like less than a week left, where you're not going to have premium towards the end, don't even bother getting it now. Wait, wait, wait. Let it tank all the way, and then the last day, just buy it with silver because you'll have so much, it'll just be like, just throw it away. But don't do it now. Maybe you want to get that 7-2 chest piece today. Buy that instead.
That's it for this week's Gold Watch, folks. Let's start the show. Hello, Shozen.
Hello, Bogle. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the early days of Albion Online and its development moving forward. I'll ask Bogle about quality of life and try to even discuss the map again without getting into more trouble. But first, Bogle, can you tell me about those harsh early days of Albion Online Alpha?
Dude. Like we had a little bit of a conversation before, right? And I was trying to think, this, to me it's like a PvP game and you go around and you have your dudes who can attack you, but that's fine because you're better than them and you just smack them in the face and that's that. And like, the game was a different game. I totally agree. But when you said it's harsher, I don't know. Was it?
Well, I mean, I
So tell
remember
me.
going into when I first started playing this game. I will admit, I was a little scared of the world of Albion Online. You make your stuff and you go out and you could lose it all in moments. I got here at towards the end
Uh-huh.
of a phase when everybody already had their gear, everybody had their houses in the middle of zones. Like people were just building houses everywhere. There was a house. Oh, somebody had a store in the middle of just a freaking zone. I'm walking through a forest and there's some foxes and there's a house. What can I buy? It's not a store. Shoot, I can't buy anything here. Leave. And you go into others and it was a crafting place. Oh, I can refine stone here in the middle of the forest.
Yeah, but nobody went there though, right? That's what was a
Yeah,
bad thing about it.
the
So it's
world
like
was a little weird, but
different
I
territories.
also remembered as soon as you went to a yellow zone, you could be killed.
Uh-huh.
So there was T4 materials, and then you had to go to a yellow zone to basically get anything else, and you could get killed. the difference between a yellow zone and a red zone at the time was, I believe a yellow zone told you there were hostiles on the map. Was dots at one
Yes,
point?
yes.
Weren't there dots for
Uh-huh.
hostiles at one point? When somebody was killed, it gave you a hostile dot, right?
Uh, Dude, that's like what, 3 years ago? But
Yeah.
yes, I think there was dots, and I think you get the same skull like you do now. Um, but you have your friends, and you call your guys on TeamSpeak, and then you go there and you check it out. And to me, that's fine. It's like I'm used to that black zone life. I know it's pretty different for a lot of people, but to me, all of this is just normal.
Well, I guess when you start in a world where I don't even think there was a yellow zone when you started, was there? I mean, you could just walk out of the starting territory and kill somebody.
Kind of.
Yeah, geez, that's rough, rough game. But so let's talk about some of the ways this game is. I don't want to get too into it, but like, one of the things they described is what they wanted to change this game from, and it was I'm guessing an internal idea that eventually became public was the idea of consensual PvP. And I can see why it took so long for it to get out that that's what they were trying to go with because that's a weird term, consensual PvP. I mean, I
Me ganking you is not consensual.
yeah,
Just to
I
get
get
that
it.
out there.
I know. But like
um,
if you've agreed to play in a full PvP game, haven't you consented to PvP?
uh, I guess.
But really I think that they really realized that the target audience that they were hitting in the beginning, even them, they needed some safe zones. Things have gotten a little safer. They've changed the yellow zone to be you don't even get killed now. It tells you how many hostiles there are. They added the red zones to be, hostiles and the clumping. Then they added black zones where there were no clumping even, and it didn't tell you how many hostiles were. Remember when there was only one black zone?
Yeah, what was the name of it? Like dark.
A friendly correction from the sharebearers. There were not just one black zone added, there were eight. Funny Bogul doesn't remember. He was one who posted patch notes 2 years ago. The names of those black zones were Carrion Copse, Festerfoss, Filthwhale, Hollahart, Ikerdu, Bilebeck, Rottenvale, and Corpse Mingle. This was brought to you by the Share Bears.
Dude, my memory's bad. I just realized. Wow.
It was near Dauntonsea, man. I lived out at Dauntonsea in the day, and
Yeah.
I was a Blackborough. No, and a Blackborough was a different game. Bandits Bridge.
No, Bandit's Bridge was the red zone where we had a territory.
Yeah,
That I remember. Yeah.
yeah. It
And
was.
before that, it was Starfall. That's the good old days.
Oh, that was before my day. I actually remember I came into Bandits Bridge looking for a guild. I ran out into the red zones alone looking for the most hostile guild I could find at the time and said, "Hey guys, is there any way you can let me in? I need help to kill people." And they were like,
Uh,
"Yeah, yeah, sure.
I
You're brave."
remember the day when we basically had our first buildings up there, and we kind of had the zone secure for the first time. And then somebody showed up next to us, and it was Grief. I was like, what? Why are they even here? Who are? And then it turned out that they are like Australian, and they wouldn't even play at our time. So it was usually we had the zone for ourselves, but those guys showed up like once every day, and it was a strange experience at the time, but it was cool.
Well, I think that's interesting that these two guilds, Vendetta and Grief, grew up next to each other like that in the early days, fighting each other. That's
Hmm.
good things. I know that later we ended up making friends with the great Chicken Kiss, who have come a long way since back in the day. Their Lord Chicken, a good friend of mine. Um, it's good to
I
have
don't
you
think
guys.
that's how
Wait,
they.
what?
No, Chicken is not the leader of Chicken Kiss. I
No,
think
but he's
that's
their
NM,
lord.
right?
Chicken, for those of you who don't know, is not actually in Chicken Kiss. He's just their their deity, as far as I can tell. He is their
Why are they
in-game
even called
deity.
Chicken Kiss? Who are they chicken kissers? No.
They're French. Who knows? I cannot really understand these things.
No, they
So,
merged. There's like two girls that were something
hey,
something. I think French Kiss and something. I forget, man.
yeah, it was a bunch of great guilds that have eventually merged throughout the days. But let's get back on point and how
Yeah.
early on
Yes.
it was so. I'm going to use the term again, harsh. There was no, yeah, there was very little place for the Care Bears in this game early on, other than hanging out in the green zone cities and being frightened. It really was a
There was
barrier. You had
no. There wasn't even like some kind of like reputation system
No,
at
there was
all.
no reputation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you well, eventually, or was it at one point they added that when you hit somebody, you couldn't go immediately back into the city.
Right.
And at one point they added guards. That was impressive. The guards could really hurt you. But
Hmm.
for many of us, leashing the guards, taking them away from the city, killing the guards, and then hanging out in front of the city and then pulling you guys away from the city gates to murder you and take your stuff as soon as you got to the first red zone city was a way to initiate you into the game pre-Galahad. This was really how we did this. We saw guards and we knew if they're guards, there's going to be Care Bears soon. Care Bears hang out with guards. So, we would pull the guards
Now
away and
they
kill
have
them.
mortars and all that shit that shoots at you.
Oh, they're mean now. I don't even play with guards anymore. We call that, gate diving, and that's just plain suicide. Don't be a gate diver, guys. If you see the guy running to the gate and there are guards there and you're not a tank capable of dealing with getting hit for twice your health, don't go there. Somebody's going to pick up your loot and it's not going to be your friends. So yeah,
Hmm.
the harsh world of gate camping. They've gotten Galahad really did a good job of getting rid of that. And since Galahad, we've even seen this more like the idea of consensual PvP has gotten more consensual. The Hell Gates that were added pre Galahad, made a big difference to that. They gave a place for high end guilds to meet pretty much whenever. Now the changes to Hell Gates make it so even people who aren't hardcore PvPers can get their feet wet, go in with nothing to risk, go in, have a good time, even if you just have one buddy. You've only made one friend in this world of Albion Online. You two can go together and fight somebody and not
Yeah.
risk anything.
Yeah.
That's how much safer do you guys need it to be? Like,
I guess I have to reiterate on a point I made earlier. It may sound like I'm kind of in favor of this harsh world because I can deal with it. But I have to acknowledge the fact that there is a whole different population in this game who doesn't want to engage in PvP at all or who just has a major turn off from the thought of getting like their gear destroyed that they worked a few hours for. And I see this development as a path that pleases both the PvP guys and the mass of players, the Care Bears you need for this kind of game to be successful. And I think that's what some people underestimate, how many people you actually need to run the game in the proper way with a lot of people who just come home from work and they just want to hang out in Albion for 2 hours or so
wait, you
and just
mean
don't.
not everybody can play 8 hours a day?
No, people have jobs, dude.
I know people with jobs who play this game 8 hours a day.
What kind of job is that?
I don't want to tell you.
Okay.
They're playing at work. But hey, I agree. I think that the idea of getting see this game needs to get people to the PvP end game. The black zone end game. And for a lot of us
But
who
over
started
time, right? You're
right,
talking over time.
yes,
Yeah.
but a lot of us, I'm going to say the people who were initially, attracted to this game learned that style of gameplay somewhere else. And Albion
Hmm.
Online now is trying to reach out to other people who see these other aspects of Albion that are really fun. I'm going to tell you the first thing that really attracted me to Albion was when I heard that the crafting in the game was 100% player crafting. There was no items in the game. There were no items in the game that were not player created.
And every time you died, somebody got your items. Items broke. Built-in item sinks, constant crafting. I was so enthralled by the idea that brought me in.
Me too. Like this is one of the big selling points for me personally as well. Um, although I always have that thing in my head where I look at the yellow zone, I look at yellow zone hellgates, you mentioned them, where people don't lose their stuff. And I wonder how this goes on over time. If do we see at some point just an oversaturation of like tier 4 gear, tier 3 gear? Do we do we see that gear just being used up for studying? Or is there some point in the game where those items actually break? I mean, for tier 5, tier 6 gear, I can see that stuff getting destroyed in PvP because you take it out into zones where it's actually dangerous. But what about like tier 4, tier 5, tier 3? Like, because that's getting used in a lot of areas where it's not
It's not
getting
breaking.
destroyed.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I will say this. As I have, this beta, and I don't know if this will hold true on release, when I go back to places to get my T3 gear so I can learn a new skill, sometimes that
Hmm.
T3 gear is way more expensive than the T4 gear. Like T2 gear and T3 gear, because nobody makes it, so there's just a lower demand.
Are you
Because
buying it in a Black Zone city?
I,
Royal Carleon?
well, I'm not. I don't think
Uh-huh.
I'm even allowed in the green zone cities. Like
See, I guess that's the reason for it.
yeah, but like there's you know,
But
it creates a
yeah,
market.
I know. Yeah.
But
Mm.
I don't find that problem with T4. T4 is always cheap. But here's the thing with T4. Like we said with Cecitil, all you need is T4 gear and somebody to be overloaded on a mount, and you can make money in this game, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, I think T4 gear will still have a place in this world. The power camps they've instituted to get people more involved in PvP over time
Hmm.
are great. They really are. They really do help people get involved because I'm going to tell you what I did. When I went from I was involved in I think it was second alpha is what they called it. I'm not exactly sure. But it was I got my butt kicked a lot. I really had a hard time, but I
Hmm.
loved the game. Everything about the game was appealing to me, even that I was losing because I had this like constant risk reward when I went out, and I always had this adrenaline rush. And sometimes I would fight these guys, and eventually, what I started doing was I started role playing it, and I would because I was so terrible at fighting at the time, I would just bring out like cake with me. If anybody played back then, cake was like this ultimate food. It was really good for you. All food did at the time was just regenerate your HP, and this was like T8 food. It was cake that looked like pink pie with lots of frosting. I have with little cherry on top. Weirdest looking cake I've ever seen. It it's out of the game. Please bring it back. I miss it. What I would do is I would actually hand it out and make friends. That's how I RP'd it. I was like, oh, here, have a piece of cake, guys. Be my friend. I'll give you cake. Maybe you'll see me again. I'll give you cake. Don't kill me. You'll never get more cake. And
Wait, you're actually a secret RP guy?
yeah, yeah. Everything I do is
Ooh.
RP, man. All about the RP. Keep it in game, peep. And so what I did when I sucked after I did the cake thing is I went out and I
Hmm.
found all those MOBAs and I tried to find MOBAs that had a similar gameplay to Albion Online. And I found one, and it made me better. It made me a much better team player. I had my reactions got better, and I really learned how to play this game better. And I went from there to being accepted into one of the more PvP centric games. And I'm not going to say I was ever involved in any of their A teams, and I don't know if I'm still not considered A team quality, but I put in the effort to do that so that now I can go out and feel comfortable PvPing in this open world PvP. And I'm
How
glad to
long did it take you? Like time-wise, because it sounds like it took you a long time to get there.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was over. Okay, first, the game would go away for months at a time. So during these months at a
Right.
time, I would
Right.
play the MOBAs. And then when the
Uh,
game would come back, I would usually try to learn mechanics and stuff like that of the game more than just the PvP focus because I knew that the game was going to be going away and that the
mm,
PvP mechanics in the game kept kind of changing. and I didn't want to get
Hmm.
too
Hmm.
into it. I learned the different roles and stuff like that, but
Hmm.
more than anything, I was trying to learn what made this
So you say
giant
like
world
2 years,
tick.
1 year, until you're comfortable with it?
Oh, until I was comfortable. Well, I got comfortable with it after 3 months of doing MOBAs, but I wasn't good. I was still Garbo. And it wasn't
No,
until
I'm just saying because you raise an interesting point, which is when you come from a different angle of or different type of game, and you are dipping your toes into Albion, and you realize, this game has PvP. How do I approach this? Am I just scared? How can I learn the PvP side of the games? If I have some MOBA experience, is it easy enough for me to jump in? I would say yes, and um, it's just interesting that you need, as you described, some time to get used to it, but then it's easy enough, but challenging enough at the same time.
to a certain point, you can learn your character and you can learn to like use your few moves and the timing of those moves. But it's really once you get to the point where you're trying to do it with your teammates, and that's another level of getting involved with this game that in the beginning I just didn't have, and I didn't really focus on that until I would say it was between phases really when I started doing
Hmm.
more testing with the game and moved from
Hmm.
like just a player to a testing phase, spent more time working with like really good shot callers and getting more confidence in shot calling myself. And then from there I moved to really this group style of play, and it wasn't really until Galahad when I really put my efforts into PvP as my time. This is the first test I've said my efforts in this test are to kill other people, and end of story. And for
Hmm.
the first few months, 2 months of this game, that's what I was doing. I was ganking people. I was hellgating. I was doing whatever I could to, get involved. But then I really did. I stepped away for a while and I started focusing on this show and again looking at the overarching things of Albion. And now I'm stepping back in again as I go to Hector. And again, the changes that they've put in, while they're not targeted to benefit the hardcore as they see it. Really, guys, if you're a hardcore PvPer, this is the best thing for your game, period. Like, if there are more people who over time come out into the world to PvP, it's not going to be you facing off against the same 200 people for the next, year, 2 years of this game. You will see more people, filling those voids as they learn first from these yellow zone hellgates. Well, I'll say even from the green zone hellgates, getting a buddy, going out, just learning to fight, learn the mechanics. Then going to the yellow game, and learning how to work with a full team and what it's going to, entail to really work with somebody and risk your buddy, because sometimes you got to risk your buddy to kill a buddy. Uh,
Hmm.
and,
Hmm.
then you get to the point when you're comfortable with that, you can move on to really risking your efforts. And you don't risk just the effort of 5 minutes in this game. You risk the efforts of hours. And that's a big bite of bread.
Hmm.
You got to chew
And
on that.
yeah, I think my point earlier is that I wanted to hint at the way or the evolvement over time that you have when you are new to this game. And I'm glad that I already am at a point where I don't have to deal with being scared about losing gear anymore. Because I know that's a big issue for many people where they think, oh, do I if I go to the red zone, to the black zone, going to lose my gear. I worked so hard for that. Well, just have two more sets in your bank and you're fine. Like this is something you can. I think maybe it's a little bit of an advice thing where to take away this fear, this angst of like, oh shit, I'm going to die. Just tell them, hey, just put two more sets in your thing and take it as a ride to, enjoying yourself.
Oh, I
And
don't put
then,
2 sets in, dude. I got like 10 sets.
yeah,
If
but
you're well, here let me just give some PvP advice early going. If you are really just wanting to dip your toes in, go think of how much money you can make in a day when you're trying to make profit. Take that much money, invest it all into a day's worth of PvP, and don't go for your high end gear. Go for just what's effective for your build, and then go out with two, three people into the red zone, not the yellow zone, because just don't bother with the yellow zone guys. Go lose your stuff. Get used to losing that stuff and just seeing what the risk of your crappy gear gets you when going into the red zone and just straight up killing people. And if you lose, you'll lose. If you go into the red zone right now as a scold guy, people are going to come fight you. They're going to come attack you. Get used to it. Dip in, lose that gear. Have a fun day of losing gear. It doesn't hurt you.
Yep, that's a +1, man. +1.
I mean, it's not going to hurt you. This is the best part of this game is really the fighting. And if you can get good at losing your stuff, guys, you can get good at losing other people's stuff too and start GVGing. Because when you GVG,
Oh,
you are not just risking your stuff and your 8 hours of grinding for your gear. You're risking
that's
a
a whole
hundred
different level of
people's
pressure.
like efforts and time. So that's some stress, and that's I mean, you're not going to find a game where you get that much on the line. It's rare and it's
It's good and bad, no?
well, yeah. I mean, it's good and bad. And I said my piece way back when, and I'm not going to reiterate my piece. If you want to find my piece,
Okay,
it's out there on the
okay.
suggestions. You can go find
Mm.
it. I made my piece on that. This game is what it is, and I enjoy the GVG experience. And I'm looking forward to seeing the changes in towers and how they affect things going forward. One thing that hasn't really gone forward really is, and I hate to say this, but is guild management tools. And I know this is really important to you, and I have talked about it quite a bit.
Yeah, this quality of life stuff. I think I made a post about that like 2015, July, I think. And it I was basically frustrated at the time. I We were playing the game for a while, and I was looking at other games. I saw how guild management systems were implemented there, and I just tried to list a bunch of stuff like flexible ranks that you can just tick off boxes and say, okay, this is how I want to my rank to be called, and this is what kind of permissions he has, or I want to maybe be able to assign multiple ranks per player, or I just want to have a chest lock system in my guild. And this is like really basic guild functionality stuff. And I know we keep bringing this up again and again and again, but you know, it's one of the things that stand out as a thing that still needs to get done.
It does. If here, I'll back you up on this, Bogle. As somebody who's led guilds in other games, who's led guilds in this game, who's had to monitor things in this and other games, it you want to be able to know when somebody logged in and when they logged off, not just that they're off.
hmm
Give me a timestamp,
hmm
please. When somebody goes into my chest, give me a timestamp, please. You guys have done really good job updating the Destiny board. I'd like to see a ticker system the same way we have for the Destiny board implemented into these other areas such as guild ranks, guild permissions, chest permissions, and it's not hard. I know you guys have a great guy on your team. I hope he's working on this right now. And right now he's kicking and screaming at the computer, going, "Stop bringing it up! I'm working on it right now!" And
Yeah,
if it's that
yeah.
bad, and you're mad at me for doing it, please just tell me that I have to pay for it as DLC, me only, and I'll still do it. I'll do it as DLC. You give it to me. I'll pay for it as DLC. Really. Um, but you guys, you've really done a great job. I want to say over the last few months, you really have done a great job improving the game. It's come a long way from, you know,
I agree.
where we started, and it's not the changes we all expected. But the number of people who've come and the people who are staying
That's a
aren't
nice way
necessarily the
to say
same
it.
people who we expected to come either. So it is
You
the game that it is, right?
you totally blindsided me there. That's like I'm sorry, but I have to go meta on this now. You just said like, oh, that's not the way how we expected the game to change. Oh, well, that's so nice of you to say that. And you can really go into a long discussion of what that means. But I don't know. I just wanted to highlight that.
Well, hey, I'm a realist at the end of the day, but I do need to say I'm sorry for something from last week. Last week I was really, really harsh on the map, um, because the map needs help. Like the map
Mm-hmm.
at the time when I made those comments, when you would zoom in and out of the map, you could either see the zone you were looking at, and the roads going out of it, or you could zoom far enough out that you could see that there are multiple territories, but you couldn't see the roads. This meant that
I remember that bad zoom level. Yeah.
it made it so incredibly hard for me to use that map that the functionality that I was used to on the map disappeared. And so I had some harsh words to say about that. But with the changes to, Hector, that zoom level has been fixed. And now the map is once again much more functional. You've done a good job working on it. It's where it should have been before, honestly. I'm going to be honest here. Maybe this isn't the nice thing to
I
say, but it
stand
should
by
have
my
been,
point though.
it should have been
I
there
like
before.
I stand by my point though that this game needs a 2D purely functional map in addition to the very cool looking 3D thing. Because one is for a immersive experience and the other one is just for, you know,
Data.
knowing what to.
I need data.
I want to see who is fighting who.
Yeah, I
You
need
know.
data. Like this game, give me more data. This is what I'm doing right now. Is I'm just cruising this game for data. That's my job. Is to funnel all this data down into like a show for you guys. And you know how much data we get? And you say I gotta get it in less than an hour. Oh my god, are you kidding me? There's so much data, and you guys make it so hard to find things. Like here's another thing, and we're going to talk. This is something that has never made it in, and I don't think I've ever talked about it like right now. Is the time UI, like when things are happening UI, of which there is all the information of when things are happening, when your times are up, where it's up, how these are things, but they're buried. They're so hard to find. Give me a calendar that is today and what's going on that tells me today these are the territories that needs to be fed. This is when the GVG is occurring. Tomorrow you guys have a GVG occurring. These are the territories that need to be fed. 3 weeks from now you're gonna have all your buildings in Carleone are going up for sale. This is when the auction ends. Right now, the current UI in finding a particular piece of information is like searching for an X on Facebook. You know she's there, but where? So, on that note, I'm going to have
What?
to maybe apologize next week. um, thanks for improving the map. There are things we can still do that need to be done for it, but maybe horrific was a rough term. You did a good job. I like being able to see the resources on the map now. Some of the new images are pretty cool. Maybe we can eventually get information on my zone map that's relevant and it doesn't look like it came from, a Sega Genesis. But we have some ways to go with the map, and I'm glad to see they're going forward. If you need help naming the zones, I'm putting myself out there. I will name mountains, ravines, lakes,
Mount Shozen.
and,
Mount
and coasts,
Lake Shozen.
everything that you need to make a real map.
You have to make like a name
I
generator
am a
that.
name generator. I am a chosen zone name generator. You can
But
TM
who
that
wants the game to be all named Chosen Zone? I
here.
think they hired an engineer to do lore.
Oh.
That's why we have the name generator.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's
Never
that's
never mind.
it's perfectly okay if you did. I understand the Germans have their way of doing
Yes,
things, and
Germans are actually all engineers. You know, this game is actually all done by engineers, and this whole idea about fantasy and stuff, what is fun.
all right. On that note, Bogle, I think we're gonna have to get out of here before we get in any more trouble. So, good night, Bogle.
Good night, Chosen, and good night, everybody else.